Tonight, we're going to talk about something that keeps marine scientists awake at night. Not because they are scared, but because they are genuinely confused. Actually, deeply confused. Because down there in the ocean depths, we have discovered things that should not exist according to everything we understand about how life works. Things that break the rules of biology, physics, and chemistry. Things that challenge our basic assumptions about what is possible on this planet. And I am not talking about speculation or theory. I am talking about real observations, actual discoveries made by research vessels and submersibles, things that are out there right now doing whatever strange thing they do. And we have no explanation. None. Over the past few decades, as our technology has improved and our ability to explore the deep ocean has advanced, we have stumbled across discoveries that have left scientists scratching their heads. Some of these discoveries challenge fundamental principles of marine biology. Some of them suggest there might be processes happening in the ocean we do not know about yet. And some of them, well, some of them are just bizarre beyond comprehension. Before we dive in, if you enjoy these explorations into the mysteries of the deep, your support really helps. Now, let us get into it. The ocean covers roughly 71% of Earth's surface. That is a staggering amount of water. If you took all the land on Earth and spread it out, it would fit inside the Pacific Ocean alone with room to spare. The ocean contains about 1.35 billion cubic kilometers of water. That is water holding an estimated 50 million to potentially 2 trillion species, most of which we have never seen. We have explored less than 20% of the ocean floor in any detail, less than 1/5. The rest remains largely unknown, mapped only by satellites that can detect the ocean floor's general shape, but miss features smaller than several kilometers across. To put this in perspective, we have better maps of Mars than we do of our own ocean floor. We have sent rovers to Mars that have photographed rocks and analysed soil. We have orbited Venus and Mercury. We have sent probes to the outer planets. But right here on Earth, beneath the waves, there exists a realm we have barely touched. And what little we have seen has fundamentally changed our understanding of life on this planet. The deep ocean is not just deep. It is crushingly deep. At the deepest point, the Challenger. Deep in the Mariana Trench, the pressure reaches over 1,000 times atmospheric pressure at sea level. If you dove down there, the weight of all that water above you would instantly crush you into something smaller than a tin can. The temperature in most deep ocean environments hovers just above freezing, between 1 and 3 degrees Celsius. No sunlight penetrates below about 1,000 meters. Everything deeper exists in absolute permanent darkness. Yet life thrives down there. Not just survives, but thrives. And some of that life is unlike anything we expected to find. Let me start with something that sounds like science fiction, but is absolutely real. Deep on the ocean floor, in the Gulf of Mexico, the Red Sea, and the Mediterranean, there exist underwater lakes. Yes, you read that correctly. Lakes under the ocean. These are called brine pools, and they are among the strangest, most hostile environments on Earth. Here is how they work. In certain locations, salt deposits buried beneath the seafloor dissolve and seep upward. Because the resulting brine is so much denser than regular seawater, it does not mix. Instead, it pools in depressions on the ocean floor, creating what looks exactly like a lake with a distinct shoreline, waves, and even beaches. But instead of water surrounded by land, this is super salty water surrounded by less salty water. The density difference is so extreme that you can literally see the boundary. Submersibles filming these pools show a shimmering interface where the brine meets the seawater above. It looks like an underwater mirage. The brine is 5 to 8 times saltier than the surrounding ocean. It is so salty that if you tried to swim in it, you would float like you do in the Dead Sea. Except you would also die instantly, because brine pools contain almost no oxygen and are loaded with toxic chemicals like hydrogen sulfide and methane. Any fish or creature that swims into a brine pool experiences something horrifying. They attempt to breathe the environment and immediately go into toxic shock from the hypersalinity. Many creatures have been found pickled in brine pools, their soft tissue intact despite being dead for decades. The brine essentially preserves them like specimens in formaldehyde. For this reason, these pools have been nicknamed the Jacuzzi of Despair and Hot Tubs of Death. But here is what scientists cannot explain. Despite being utterly toxic to almost all life, the edges of these pools teem with organisms. Massive colonies of mussels, sometimes stretching for hundreds of meters, line the shores of brine pools. These are not ordinary mussels. They are specialized species that exist nowhere else on Earth. Their shells are often crusted with mineral deposits from the brine, giving them a crystalline appearance. Inside, their tissues are filled with symbiotic bacteria that scientists are only beginning to understand. Tube worms cluster at the boundaries. Some of these worms can grow to lengths of over 2 meters, their blood-red plumes waving in the currents at the edge of the toxic pools. They have no mouth, no digestive system. They survive entirely through their relationship with bacteria living in their tissues. Shrimp swarm in clouds at the interface between the brine and normal seawater. These shrimp have been observed darting in and out of the brine layer, apparently feeding on organisms that have succumbed to the toxic water. They seem to have evolved a tolerance for brief exposure to the hypersalinity, though how they avoid toxic shock remains unclear. Eels dart down into the toxic water to snatch stunned prey, then retreat to breathe. Some species of eel appear to hunt exclusively at brine pools, timing their dives with precision to grab disoriented fish and then escape before the brine affects them. Deep-sea sharks circle overhead like vultures, waiting for something to make a fatal mistake. Researchers have documented sharks returning to the same brine pools repeatedly, suggesting they have learned these locations are reliable hunting grounds. How is this possible? The answer involves chemosynthesis, a process where bacteria convert dissolved gases like methane and hydrogen sulfide into energy. These bacteria live in symbiotic relationships with the mussels and tube worms, providing them with nutrients. The mussels in turn protect the bacteria from predators. It is a complete ecosystem based not on sunlight, but on toxic chemicals seeping from the ocean floor. But calling it chemosynthesis does not really explain it. Chemosynthesis is a general term for organisms deriving energy from chemical reactions rather than light. What happens at brine pools is far more specific and far stranger. The bacteria at these sites are using chemical pathways that researchers are still working to fully understand. Some of them oxidize methane, others reduce sulfur compounds. Still others appear to use combinations of chemical reactions that have never been documented in laboratory settings. These are not organisms that evolved to tolerate extreme conditions. These are organisms that require extreme conditions. Take them out of the brine pool environment, and they die. The chemistry that sustains them exists nowhere else, and this raises profound questions about the origin of life itself. Scientists understand the basic mechanism, but what they cannot explain is the larger picture. Why do these specific organisms thrive in conditions that would kill their close relatives? How did they evolve to live at the edge of such extreme toxicity? What genetic adaptations allow them to process and survive near chemicals that should be instantly lethal? These questions have no satisfactory answers. Consider the mussels that line brine pool shores. Their closest genetic relatives live in shallow coastal waters, environments that are about as different from brine pools as you can imagine. Somewhere in evolutionary history, these mussel lineages diverged. One branch stayed in the shallows, the other adapted to life at the edge of underwater death traps thousands of meters below the surface. How did that transition happen? Did it occur gradually, with each generation tolerating slightly higher salinity and slightly lower oxygen? Or did it happen rapidly, driven by some catastrophic event that forced a population of mussels into extreme conditions? We do not know. And perhaps most puzzling, how does the entire ecosystem maintain such a precise balance at the boundary between life and death? Move too close to the brine, you die. Move too far away, you lose access to the chemical energy that sustains you. The margin for error is incredibly thin. A few centimeters can make the difference between survival and death. Yet these organisms maintain it perfectly, generation after generation. They do not drift into the brine. They do not move away from it. They stay exactly where they need to be. How? What sensory mechanisms allow a mussel or tube worm to detect the precise boundary of a brine pool? Do they sense the salinity gradient, the chemical composition of the water, the concentration of methane or hydrogen sulfide? Researchers have conducted experiments trying to understand this. They have placed sensors at brine pool edges, measuring every variable they can think of: temperature, salinity, pH, dissolved oxygen, concentrations of various chemicals, and they have found that the organisms cluster at very specific points where multiple factors converge in ways that are difficult to predict or model. It is not just about finding the right salinity, it is about finding the intersection of salinity, chemistry, temperature, pressure, and possibly other factors we have not identified yet. Furthermore, The sheer biodiversity at brine pools is baffling. These should be biological deserts, places where life cannot exist. Instead, they are oases. Researchers have found species of amphipods, crustaceans, fish, and microorganisms at brine pools that exist nowhere else on Earth. Each brine pool appears to have its own unique community of organisms, adapted to the specific chemistry of that particular pool. This suggests that life has independently evolved to exploit these environments multiple times in multiple locations. That is extraordinary. It means that toxic, oxygen-free hypersaline environments are not barriers to life. They are opportunities, ecological niches that life will fill given enough time. But it also means that every brine pool is essentially a separate experiment in evolution. The organisms in one pool may be genetically distinct from those in another pool only a few kilometers away. They cannot interbreed because they cannot travel through the normal seawater between pools. They are isolated populations, evolving independently, potentially diverging into separate species over time, and we have no idea how many times this has happened or how many undiscovered brine pool ecosystems exist in the deep ocean. The discovery of brine pools has also changed how astrobiologists think about life on other worlds. Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus both have subsurface oceans beneath their icy shells. These oceans are thought to have hydrothermal vents and possibly brine deposits. If life can thrive in Earth's brine pools, it might thrive in similar environments on other worlds. Understanding how extremophiles survive in brine pools could guide our search for extraterrestrial life. But first we need to understand them here, and we do not fully. In 2022, researchers discovered a new complex of brine pools in the Gulf of Aqaba, an arm of the Red Sea. These pools, named the Neom Brine Pools, are located just 1.2 miles from shore, making them the closest known brine pools to land anywhere in the world. Their proximity to the coast means they trap sediments washed down from the land during floods and storms, and because nothing lives in the brine to disturb the sediments, these pools preserve a pristine geological record going back at least 1,200 years. By analysing sediment cores from the Neom pools, scientists have reconstructed a history of tsunamis, earthquakes, and flash floods in the region. The cores show distinct layers, each one representing a different type of event. Fine-grained layers suggest slow, steady deposition from normal ocean currents. Coarse layers indicate violent events, sudden deposits of material moved by tremendous force. One particularly thick layer of coarse sediment, dated to approximately 500 years ago, likely corresponds to a massive submarine landslide that would have generated a sizable tsunami. The force required to move that much sediment into the brine pool in a single event would have been catastrophic. Researchers estimate the tsunami waves could have reached heights of several meters when they struck the coastline, yet there is no historical record of such an event. No written accounts from that period describe a tsunami in the Gulf of Aqaba. This is not surprising. The region was sparsely populated 500 years ago, and record-keeping was limited. But it raises unsettling questions. How many other catastrophic events have occurred in this region that we do not know about? How often do submarine landslides generate tsunamis here? And what are the implications for modern coastal development? Another sediment layer likely corresponds to a magnitude 7.2 earthquake that struck Egypt in 1995. The earthquake caused significant damage on land and generated waves up to 4 meters high in some coastal areas. The sediment signature of this event is clear in the Neom cores, providing a calibration point that helps researchers interpret older layers. Flash flood layers are also visible in the cores. The Gulf of Aqaba region is a desert. It receives very little rainfall most of the year, but occasionally intense storms drop enormous amounts of rain in a short period. The resulting floods, called wadis, carry huge volumes of water and sediment from the desert into the sea. These floods can happen once every 25 years or even less frequently. Yet the sediment cores from Neom brine pools show evidence of multiple flash flood deposits, each one distinct, each one telling the story of a violent storm that swept through the region and deposited a pulse of terrestrial sediment into the ocean. The sediments tell a story written in mud and silt, a record of catastrophic events that would be impossible to read anywhere else because bioturbation, the disturbance caused by burrowing organisms, destroys sediment layers almost everywhere on the ocean floor. Crabs, worms, and other creatures constantly dig through the sediment, mixing layers and erasing the geological record. But in brine pools, nothing burrows, nothing digs. The sediments remain undisturbed for centuries, preserving information about past events with a clarity that is extremely rare in marine environments, except in brine pools. They are time capsules, and we have barely begun to explore them. There are likely hundreds of undiscovered brine pools in the world's oceans. Each one potentially holds a unique sedimentary record. Each one could provide information about past earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, and climate events in its region. Each one could help scientists understand how often these events occur and what triggers them. This information is not just academic, it has practical implications for coastal communities. If we know how often tsunamis have struck a particular coastline in the past, we can better assess the risk of future tsunamis. If we understand the patterns of submarine landslides, we can identify areas where underwater construction might be dangerous. The Neom brine pools were discovered during a research cruise funded by a massive development project in northwestern Saudi Arabia. The region is being developed with new cities, infrastructure, and coastal facilities. Understanding the geological hazards, the history of tsunamis and earthquakes, is critical for planning where and how to build. This is one of the few cases where scientific research into brine pools has directly informed real-world decision-making, and it highlights how much we still do not know about the ocean, and how that lack of knowledge can have consequences. Now let us talk about sounds. Strange, unexplained sounds coming from the deep ocean. For decades, hydrophones placed throughout the world's oceans have picked up noises that do not match anything scientists know. These sounds are not random. They are structured, repeating, sometimes seasonal, and for years their sources remained complete mysteries. The most famous is probably the bloop. In the summer of 1997, the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration detected an extremely powerful ultra-low frequency sound in the southern Pacific Ocean. The sound was loud enough to be picked up by sensors thousands of kilometers apart. It had a rapid frequency increase, a characteristic that marine biologists associate with biological sources. The sound profile suggested something alive made it, but if something alive made the bloop, it would have to be enormous, larger than a blue whale, the biggest animal known to have ever lived on Earth. Speculation ran wild. Sea monsters, unknown, giant squid, something massive living in the unexplored depths. For years, the bloop remained unexplained. Then, in 2005, NOAA released a statement suggesting the bloop was most likely the sound of an iceberg calving, a large piece of ice breaking off from an Antarctic ice shelf and crashing into the ocean. The acoustic signature matched ice quakes, the cracking and fracturing sounds ice makes. This explanation satisfied many scientists, but not everyone is convinced. The problem is that while iceberg calving can produce similar sounds, the exact characteristics of the bloop still seem unusual. It was detected in the Pacific, far from known major ice shelves. The sound structure, while consistent with ice, also resembles biological calls in ways that are difficult to dismiss. Some researchers believe we may never know for certain what produced the bloop. Another mysterious sound is Julia, recorded in March 1999. Julia lasted about 15 seconds and was loud enough to be detected across the equatorial Pacific Ocean. Like the bloop, Julia's source was never definitively identified, though scientists now believe it was also likely produced by an Antarctic iceberg running into the seafloor or fragmenting. But there is another sound that remains far more mysterious: the upsweep. First recorded in 1991, the upsweep is a long, drawn-out sound that lasts several seconds and repeats regularly. It sounds almost mechanical, like the whine of distant machinery or an alarm siren. Parts of it resemble branches scratching against a window. The sound has been recorded throughout the Pacific Ocean and appears to be seasonal, reaching peaks in spring and autumn, though scientists are not sure why. The upsweep is usually recorded near areas of underwater volcanic activity, which has led most researchers to conclude it is produced by seismic or volcanic processes. But here is the mystery. Despite knowing the general area where the upsweep originates, scientists cannot pinpoint the exact source. They cannot identify which volcano or which geological process is making the sound, and they cannot explain why it is seasonal or why its volume has been decreasing over the years. The upsweep is still being recorded today, but it is quieter than it was in the 1990s. Why? No one knows. These are just a few examples. There are dozens of other unexplained sounds. The train, the slowdown, the whistle. Each one detected by hydrophones, each one analysed, each one leaving scientists with more questions than answers. And then there is the biotwang. In 2014, autonomous underwater vehicles conducting an acoustic survey near the Mariana Trench recorded one of the strangest sounds ever captured in the ocean. Researchers nicknamed it the biotwang. The sound consists of two distinct parts. First, a low-frequency moan, a deep rumbling that reverberates through the water. Then, almost immediately, a high-pitched, metallic ringing, like the sound effects from Star Trek or Star Wars. The combination is so bizarre that anyone listening to it would assume it was mechanical. No one would guess it came from a living creature, but it did. Scientists suspected from the beginning that the biotwang was biological, specifically a call from a baleen whale. Baleen whales, which include blue whales, humpback whales, and fin whales, are known for making complex vocalizations. But this sound was unlike any whale call ever recorded. It took nearly a decade to confirm its source. In 2024, researchers finally identified the biotwang as the call of Bride's whales. These are medium-sized baleen whales that grow up to 50 feet long. They're elusive, rarely seen, and poorly understood because they spend most of their time in deep water and do not surface often. Using artificial intelligence to analyze over 200,000 hours of underwater recordings, scientists were able to match the biotwang to Bride's whales swimming near the Mariana Islands. On 9 separate occasions, researchers observed groups of Bride's whales and simultaneously recorded the biotwang. 9 times. That is not a coincidence. That is confirmation. But solving the mystery of what makes the biotwang does not answer all the questions. Scientists still do not know why Bride's whales make this sound. Is it a mating call? Is it used for navigation? Is it a form of communication between individuals or groups? The fact that the biotwang is recorded year-round suggests it is not purely seasonal, which rules out some typical whale call functions like breeding displays. One theory is that Bride's whales use the biotwang as a contact call, a way of locating each other across vast distances in the deep ocean, like playing Marco Polo in the abyss. But this is speculation. We do not know. And here is what makes this even more interesting. The biotwang has only been recorded near the Mariana Trench and the surrounding area. Recordings from other parts of the Pacific where Bride's whales are known to migrate do not contain this sound. This suggests that only a specific population of Bride's whales makes the biotwang. Why? Is it a regional dialect, like how different orcapods have distinct vocalizations? Or is there something unique about the Mariana Trench environment that requires or enables this particular call? These are questions we cannot answer yet. What we can say is that the ocean is full of sounds we do not understand, whale songs we have not identified, clicks and whistles from unknown sources, mechanical groans and metallic pings that should not exist in nature. Every time we deploy a hydrophone, we hear something new, something strange, and it reminds us how little we know about what is happening beneath the surface. Let me tell you about something even more baffling. For decades, marine biologists used nets to sample life in the deep ocean. They would lower nets to various depths, drag them through the water, and haul them back up to see what they caught. This method worked well for fish, squid, crustaceans, and other organisms with solid bodies. Nets could capture them relatively intact. Researchers could study them, identify them, understand their role in the ecosystem. But it missed something enormous, something that fundamentally changed our understanding of deep ocean ecology. An entire ecosystem of gelatinous organisms that nets could not capture because they slipped through the mesh or were destroyed by the trawling process. When a net moves through water at depth, it creates turbulence. Fish and crustaceans can handle this turbulence. Their bodies are structured to withstand it. But gelatinous organisms, creatures made mostly of water with delicate tissues, are torn apart. They disintegrate into fragments that are unrecognizable by the time the net reaches the surface. For decades, researchers assumed these fragments were just decomposed pieces of larger organisms. They did not realize they were looking at remnants of an entire class of creatures. It was not until scientists started using submersibles and remotely operated vehicles equipped with cameras that they realized the deep ocean is absolutely dominated by jellyfish and their relatives. Not just a few jellyfish, vast swarms of them, clouds of small jellies that move through the water like living fog, chains of gelatinous organisms many feet long strung together in colonial structures that undulate through the darkness. Colonies of siphonophores that pulse and shimmer with bioluminescence. creating displays of light that are both beautiful and utterly alien. Bruce Robertson, a senior scientist at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, described this as one of the biggest discoveries of the last decade. Until we started going down there with cameras, he said, we had no idea that gelatinous animals are one of the dominant life forms in the deep sea. This is astonishing. It means that our entire understanding of deep ocean ecosystems was fundamentally wrong for most of the history of marine biology. We thought fish and squid were the primary predators, and that life in the deep was sparse and slow. We constructed food webs based on what we could catch in nets. We estimated biomass based on trawl samples. We built models of energy flow through deep ocean ecosystems that completely missed one of the dominant groups of organisms. Turns out, the deep ocean is teeming with jellies. They are everywhere. Some are tiny, barely visible to the naked eye, drifting through the water in numbers that can reach millions per cubic meter. Others are massive, with bells several meters across and tentacles stretching dozens of meters into the darkness. Many are bioluminescent, producing their own light through chemical reactions involving luciferin and luciferase, the same basic chemistry that fireflies use but adapted to work in cold, high-pressure environments. The bioluminescence serves multiple purposes, and scientists are still working to understand all of them. When disturbed, many jellies flash and glow in patterns that appear designed to startle predators. The sudden burst of light in the pitch-black depths might confuse or frighten something trying to eat them. Other jellies use bioluminescence to attract prey. They emit patterns of light that mimic the bioluminescence of small organisms, luring hungry fish into range of their tentacles. Still others appear to use light for communication, though what they might be communicating and to whom remains largely mysterious. Are they signaling to potential mates, warning off competitors, coordinating movement with other members of their species? We do not know. Some jellies form colonies, linking together into structures that behave like a single organism. Siphonophores, for example, are not individual creatures but colonies of specialized polyps. Each polyp performs a different function. Some handle feeding, extending tentacles to capture prey and digest it. Others manage reproduction, producing eggs or sperm. Others control locomotion, contracting and expanding to move the entire colony through the water. Still others serve defensive functions, producing stinging cells or toxins to protect the colony. Together they act as one coordinated entity, even though they are technically hundreds or thousands of individual organisms. The longest known siphonophore, discovered off the coast of Australia in 2020, measured over 120 feet long, making it one of the longest animals ever recorded. These creatures are fragile, delicate, almost impossible to study in a laboratory setting. When you try to bring them to the surface, the pressure change destroys them. They collapse, disintegrate, become unrecognizable. So most of what we know about deep-sea jellies comes from footage captured by ROVs and submersibles, and that footage reveals a world that looks more like an alien planet than Earth's ocean. Here is what scientists cannot explain. How do these gelatinous organisms survive in an environment where food is so scarce? The deep ocean is a nutrient-poor place. Most organic matter that sinks from the surface is consumed long before it reaches the deep. Yet jellies thrive down there. What are they eating? How are they finding it? And how do their fragile, seemingly inefficient bodies compete with more robust predators like fish and squid? Another mystery involves their life cycles. Most jellies have complex reproductive strategies involving both sexual and asexual phases. Some can revert to earlier life stages if conditions become unfavourable, essentially making them biologically immortal. But we do not know how or when these processes occur in deep-sea species. We do not know where they reproduce, how they raise their young, or how their populations are maintained. We do not even know how many species of deep-sea jellies exist. New ones are discovered constantly. Some are so bizarre that they do not fit into existing taxonomic categories. Scientists have to create new classifications just to describe them, and every dive, every expedition, every hour of footage reveals more. The deep ocean is not empty. It is full of life we never imagined. Life that is gelatinous, bioluminescent, fragile, and utterly strange. Now let us turn to something that has puzzled researchers for over a decade. In 2011, a Swedish ocean exploration team was conducting a survey of the Baltic Sea using sonar imaging. They were searching for shipwrecks and other underwater features. What they found was not a shipwreck. It was something no one could explain. The sonar image showed a large circular object resting on the ocean floor at a depth of about 90 meters. The object appeared to be roughly 60 meters in diameter, with a disc-like shape. Extending from one side of the disc was what looked like a long drag mark or trench, as if the object had moved across the seafloor before coming to rest. The formation was unlike anything the team had ever seen. When the images were made public, speculation exploded. Some people claimed it was a crashed UFO. Others suggested it was a secret military installation, possibly a Nazi-era weapon, or base from World War II. A few proposed it was a natural rock formation, perhaps shaped by glacial activity. The object became known as the Baltic Sea Anomaly. In the years since its discovery, multiple expeditions have visited the site to investigate. Divers have descended to examine the object up close, samples have been taken, photographs have been published, and the mystery has only deepened. Divers reported that the object appears to be made of stone or some kind of dense material. Its surface is rough and pitted, but in places it shows what look like straight edges and right angles, features that are unusual for natural formations. One diver claimed that electronic equipment malfunctioned when brought near the object, though this has never been verified and could easily have been caused by environmental factors. Geological analysis of samples taken from the site suggests the object is likely a natural formation, possibly a glacial deposit left behind during the last ice age. But this explanation has not satisfied everyone. The object's shape is too regular, too circular, and the drag mark extending from it is difficult to explain if it is simply a rock deposited by a glacier. If it is natural, what process created such a symmetrical formation? If it is not natural, what is it? Some researchers have pointed out that the Baltic Sea is full of strange geological features created by glacial and tectonic activity. Circular formations are not unheard of. The combination of sediment deposition, erosion, and tectonic shifts can create shapes that look artificial but are entirely natural. The problem is that the Baltic Sea anomaly does not quite fit any known natural process. It is too regular to be a random glacial deposit, but too rough and irregular to be an artificial structure. It occupies an uncomfortable middle ground. To date, no definitive explanation has been accepted by the scientific community. The object remains on the ocean floor, mysterious and unexplained, and it is not alone. Circular formations and strange structures have been found on ocean floors around the world. Some are caused by pufferfish, creating intricate mating nests. Male pufferfish swim in circles, flapping their fins to create elaborate geometric patterns in the sand. These underwater crop circles are beautiful and entirely biological, but other formations are not so easily explained. In the Mediterranean, off the coast of Greece, researchers have discovered what appear to be ancient stone structures, walls, and paved streets submerged beneath the waves. In 2015, a team working in Kyllada Bay, south of Athens, uncovered the ruins of an entire city dating back to the Bronze Age. The city covered roughly 12 acres and was protected by defensive walls with towers, structures that have never been found at other ancient Greek sites. How did this city end up underwater? Was it submerged by rising sea levels? Did it sink during an earthquake? Did a tsunami destroy it? We do not know. The ruins are there, preserved beneath the sea, but the story of how they came to be submerged remains a mystery. Similar discoveries have been made in other locations. Off the coast of Japan, the Yonaguni Monument has puzzled researchers since its discovery in the 1980s. The structure consists of massive stone terraces, flat platforms, and right-angle corners that look almost certainly artificial. Some researchers believe it is a man-made monument, possibly over 10,000 years old. Others argue it is a natural formation shaped by erosion and tectonic activity. The debate has gone on for decades with no resolution. What all these discoveries have in common is that they challenge our assumptions. We expect the ocean floor to be a place of natural formations shaped by geology and biology. When we find something that looks artificial, something that suggests intelligence or purpose, we do not know what to make of it. Is it a trick of erosion? Is it a remnant of a lost civilization? Is it something else entirely? The ocean does not give up its secrets easily. Here is another mystery. In May 2019, researchers from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration were conducting tests with underwater drones in the Gulf of Mexico. Sonar picked up a mysterious shipwreck resting on the seafloor. Marine archaeologists from around the world were contacted to watch via livestream as the drone explored the wreck, What they saw was a ship estimated to be roughly 200 years old. The vessel was approximately 124 feet long, constructed from wood and copper sheathing. Charred timber suggested the ship had been on fire when it sank, but apart from the number 2109 painted on the hull, researchers could not identify much about the vessel. Its country of origin, the number of crew on board, its purpose, and how it sank all remain unknown. This is not unusual. The Gulf of Mexico is estimated to contain over 4,000 shipwrecks scattered across its seafloor. Each one is a mystery. Each one holds a story we may never fully uncover. And this particular ship is just one of many unidentified wrecks. But there is something eerie about the scene. A 200-year-old ship burned and sunk, resting in the deep with no record of its existence. No manifest, no log, no survivors to tell what happened. It is as if the ship and everyone aboard simply vanished from history. Then there are modern disappearances. In 2007, a yacht called the Kaz-2 set sail from Australia, with 3 experienced sailors on board. A few days later, the boat was found drifting off the coast with no one aboard. The motor was still running, a laptop was powered on, a table was set with food, life jackets and emergency equipment were still on board. There was no sign of struggle, no indication of foul play. The 3 men had simply vanished. Coroners speculated about what might have happened. Perhaps all 3 fell overboard simultaneously, an unlikely scenario but not impossible. Perhaps they abandoned ship for some reason and drowned. Perhaps one fell overboard and the other 2 jumped in to save him, leaving the boat running. But none of these explanations feel satisfying. How do 3 experienced sailors all disappear from a boat at the same time, leaving the engine running and their belongings undisturbed? The case remains unsolved, and it is not the only one. The ocean is full of ghost ships, vessels found adrift with no crew. The SS Waratah, a passenger ship, disappeared in 1909 with over 200 people on board. Despite extensive searches, no wreckage was ever found. The ship was considered unsinkable, yet it vanished without a trace. Even stranger are the submarines. In 1968, 4 submarines from different navies disappeared within months of each other. The Israeli submarine Dakar, the French submarine Minerve, the Soviet submarine K-129, and the American submarine USS Scorpion. All 4 vanished. All 4 were eventually located, their shattered hulls resting on the ocean floor. But the exact causes of their sinkings remain disputed. In the case of the USS Scorpion, no official explanation has ever been released. Some theorists suggest it was attacked by a Soviet vessel, though no evidence supports this. Others believe it suffered a catastrophic mechanical failure. The truth is lost with the 99 crew members who went down with the sub. The ocean swallows things, ships, planes, people, and often it does not give them back. Let us talk about one of the ocean's most famous mysteries, the giant squid. For centuries, sailors told stories of enormous sea creatures with long tentacles that could pull ships underwater. These stories were dismissed as myths, exaggerations, tall tales told by drunken sailors looking for attention or trying to explain away accidents at sea. The Kraken, as it was often called in Scandinavian folklore, was considered pure fantasy, something to frighten children with, not a real animal. But the stories persisted across different cultures, different time periods, different oceans. Norse sailors described massive squid. Japanese fishermen reported encounters with creatures they called devils of the deep. Mediterranean sailors spoke of many armed monsters rising from the abyss. The consistency of these accounts across time and geography should have been a clue that something real was being observed, and occasionally, dead squid of immense size would wash ashore, their bodies too decomposed to study properly but large enough to prove that something massive lived in the deep. Tentacles the thickness of a man's arm, beaks large enough to bite through bone, eyes the size of dinner plates. These were not the small squid that fishermen caught near the surface. These were something else, something much larger, something that clearly existed but had never been seen alive. Despite this evidence, mainstream science largely dismissed giant squid as rare freaks, unusual specimens that did not represent a viable population. The thinking was that if giant squid were common, we would see them more often. The fact that we only saw dead, decomposed specimens washing ashore suggested they were anomalies, not a species that thrived in the ocean. This reasoning was fundamentally flawed, but it persisted for decades. It was not until 2004 that a living giant squid was photographed for the first time. 2004, that is incredibly recent. We had sent humans to the moon, we had rovers on Mars, we had telescopes capable of seeing galaxies billions of light years away. But we had never photographed a living giant squid. Before that, despite decades of oceanographic research, despite thousands of hours of deep-sea exploration, despite all our technology and scientific expertise, no one had ever captured an image of this creature alive in its natural habitat. The photographs were taken by Japanese researchers Tsunemi Kubodera and Kyoichi Mori, who used a baited camera system at a depth of about 900 meters off the Ogasawara Islands. The images showed a giant squid attacking the bait, its tentacles wrapping around the line, its body visible in the murky water. The squid was estimated to be about 8 meters long, and one of its tentacles became snagged on the line. The squid struggled for hours before finally tearing the tentacle free and escaping. The severed tentacle was recovered and provided scientists with tissue samples for DNA analysis. A few years later, in 2012, researchers finally obtained underwater video of a giant squid in its natural habitat. The footage showed a creature with tentacles stretching over 8 meters, eyes the size of dinner plates, and a body that moved with surprising grace through the water. It was extraordinary. But it also raised a troubling question. If an animal this large remained unseen until 2004, what else is down there that we have not found? Giant squid are thought to reach lengths of up to 66 feet, though this is largely speculation because we have so few specimens to study. Their cousin, the colossal squid, is even less understood. Colossal squid can grow up to 45 feet long and have hooks on their tentacles in addition to suckers. A live colossal squid was not filmed until 2025, and even then, it was only a 1-foot-long juvenile. We have never seen an adult colossal squid alive. Think about that. These are some of the largest invertebrates on Earth, animals that weigh hundreds of kilograms, and we know almost nothing about their lives. We do not know how deep they live, though evidence suggests they spend most of their time at depths between 300 and 1,000 meters, occasionally diving deeper. We do not know what they eat on a regular basis, though we have found beaks from various fish and smaller squid in the stomachs of dead specimens, and we have found scars from their tentacles on sperm whales, suggesting they battle with whales in the deep. These scars are circular marks left by the suckers, and on large male sperm whales, these scars can cover large portions of the body, evidence of repeated encounters with giant squid. We do not know how they reproduce. No one has ever observed giant squid mating. We do not know where they lay their eggs, or what those eggs look like. We do not know how the young develop or where they spend their early lives. Every aspect of their reproductive biology is essentially unknown. We do not know how long they live. Estimates based on growth rings in their statoliths, small calcium carbonate structures in their heads, suggest they might live 5 to 10 years. But this is speculative. We do not even know how big they can get. Estimates range from 30 to 60 feet in total length, including tentacles, but without studying a large sample of living specimens, we are guessing based on decomposed carcasses and fragmented remains. The largest giant squid ever recorded was a female specimen that washed ashore in New Zealand in 1887. It was reported to be 18 meters long, though modern scientists treat this measurement with skepticism because the tentacles of dead squid can stretch significantly as the tissues decompose. Still, even conservative estimates put the largest known giant squid at over 12 meters long. And if giant squid and colossal squid remained hidden from science until the 21st century, what about other large animals? Are there species of whales we have not identified? Deep diving whales that surface rarely and in remote locations might easily avoid detection. Are there sharks living in the deep that we have never seen? Large predatory fish that spend their entire lives below 1,000 meters. The ocean is immense. The deep ocean is dark, cold, and under crushing pressure, making exploration incredibly difficult and expensive. It is entirely plausible, even likely, that there are large animals down there we have not discovered yet. Every year, scientists describe hundreds of new marine species. Most are small, fish the length of your finger, crustaceans you could fit in your palm. But occasionally, something big turns up. In 2016, researchers exploring the depths of the Gulf of Mexico discovered a previously unknown species of deep sea shark. It was 6 feet long. In 2020, a species of beaked whale that was thought to be rare was found to be far more common than previously believed. We had simply been looking in the wrong places. The deep ocean is full of hiding spots, underwater canyons, trenches, abyssal plains that stretch for thousands of kilometers. If you are an animal that lives at depths of 2,000 meters or more, you are almost invisible to human observation. We might see you once, by accident, and then never again. That is what makes the ocean so mysterious. It is not just that we have not explored it. It is that even when we do explore it, we only see a tiny fraction of what is there. A submersible can spend hours at depth and cover only a few square kilometers. The ocean floor covers 360 million square kilometers. The math does not work in our favor. Let us talk about the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. The trench is over 1,500 miles long and reaches a maximum depth of nearly 11,000 meters at the Challenger Deep. The pressure at the bottom is over 1,000 times atmospheric pressure at sea level. The temperature hovers just above freezing. No sunlight has ever reached the bottom of the Mariana Trench. It is one of the most extreme environments on Earth, and yet, life exists there. In 2012, filmmaker James Cameron descended to the Challenger Deep in a specially designed submersible. He spent several hours on the ocean floor filming and collecting samples. What he saw was surprising. The bottom was not barren, it was covered in a fine sediment, and small creatures, amphipods, and other crustaceans scurried across the surface. These organisms have adapted to pressures that would kill almost anything else. Their bodies are soft, flexible, and filled with fluids that are incompressible, allowing them to withstand the crushing force of the water above. But here is what is truly strange. In 2015, researchers discovered something at the bottom of the Mariana Trench that has never been observed anywhere else on Earth. A pool of molten sulfur, liquid sulfur, exists naturally at temperatures above 115 degrees Celsius. The fact that it was found in the cold, high-pressure environment of the Mariana Trench suggests there is active geothermal activity happening down there, heating the sulfur and keeping it liquid. But scientists do not fully understand the geology of this process. They do not know what is generating the heat. They do not know how widespread this phenomenon is, and they do not know what effect, if any, the molten sulfur has on the surrounding ecosystem. Another mystery involves the microorganisms living in the trench. Samples taken from the deepest parts have revealed bacteria and archaea that are unlike anything found elsewhere. Some of these microbes are piezophiles, organisms that not only tolerate extreme pressure but require it to survive. If you bring them to the surface, the decrease in pressure kills them. They literally need the crushing weight of the ocean to live. This raises fascinating questions. If life on Earth can adapt to such extreme conditions, what might life look like on other worlds? Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, has a subsurface ocean beneath an ice shell kilometers thick. The pressure in Europa's ocean could be immense. Could piezophilic organisms exist there? Enceladus, a moon of Saturn, has geysers shooting water ice into space, indicating a liquid ocean beneath its surface. Could extremophils similar to those in the Mariana Trench thrive in Enceladus's ocean? These are questions that astrobiologists are actively exploring. By studying life in Earth's most extreme environments, we learn what is possible. We learn that life is not fragile. It is adaptable, resilient, and astonishingly creative in finding ways to survive. But we also learn how much we do not know. Every sample from the Mariana Trench contains new species. Every dive reveals something unexpected. The trench is not just deep. It is full of mysteries that challenge our understanding of biology, chemistry, and geology. Here is another baffling phenomenon. Since 2017, great white sharks have been washing ashore along the coast of South Africa with their livers ripped out. Not damaged, not partially eaten, surgically removed. The sharks are otherwise intact. No other organs are missing, just the liver. Great white sharks are apex predators, the top of the marine food chain. The idea that something is hunting them, killing them, and precisely extracting their livers is unsettling. For years, researchers were baffled. Then they noticed a pattern. The liver removals coincided with increased sightings of 2 male orcas in the area. Orcas, also known as killer whales, are highly intelligent predators. They are known to hunt sharks, flipping them upside down to induce a state called tonic immobility, a temporary paralysis that makes the shark helpless. but the precision of these liver extractions is extraordinary. Orcas appear to have learned that shark livers are rich in oils and nutrients. They target the liver specifically, ignoring the rest of the shark's body. How do they know to do this? How did they develop this hunting technique? And why is it happening now in this specific location by these specific individuals? Scientists do not have complete answers. Orca behavior is incredibly complex. Different orca populations have distinct cultures, hunting strategies, and vocalizations. These two males seem to have developed a unique skill, but the broader implications are troubling. The presence of these orcas has caused great white sharks to abandon their traditional hunting grounds along the South African coast. This has disrupted the entire ecosystem. Without great whites, populations of smaller sharks and rays have increased. This in turn affects the populations of the fish and invertebrates those species prey on, a ripple effect caused by two orcas with a taste for shark liver. And then there is the mystery of the shark named Alpha. In 2003, researchers tagged a healthy adult great white shark off the coast of Australia to study its movements and behavior. The tag was designed to record temperature, depth, and other data. 4 months later, the tag washed ashore. When researchers examined the data, they were stunned. At some point, the shark had suddenly descended to a depth of nearly 2,000 feet. The temperature around the tag spiked, suggesting the tag had been in a warm environment. Then the tag was expelled, likely through digestion or regurgitation. The data suggested that something had eaten Alpha, something that could dive to 2,000 feet and had a body temperature warmer than the surrounding ocean water. But what could eat a 9-foot-long, healthy great white shark? The only plausible explanation is another, much larger shark. Some researchers have speculated it could have been a massive great white, potentially twice the size of Alpha. Others have suggested a sleeper shark, a deep water species that can grow to enormous sizes, but sleeper sharks are slow-moving scavengers. It is unlikely one could catch a healthy great white. The mystery remains unsolved. Whatever ate Alpha is still out there, somewhere in the ocean, large enough and powerful enough to prey on apex predators. Let me tell you about the missing plastic. Every year, roughly 8 million tons of plastic enter the ocean from land-based sources. That is an astonishing amount. 8 million tons. Plastic bottles, bags, fishing nets, microplastics from cosmetics and synthetic clothing. All of it ends up in the water. Scientists have studied how much plastic is floating on the ocean's surface. The estimates range from about 6,000 to 245,000 tons. That is a huge range, but even the upper estimate is only a tiny fraction of the plastic we know is entering the ocean. So where is the rest? Where are the millions of tons of plastic that should be out there but are not? This is one of the biggest mysteries in oceanography. Some plastic sinks. It becomes waterlogged or is colonized by organisms that weigh it down, and it settles to the ocean floor. But how much? We do not know because mapping the ocean floor for plastic is incredibly difficult. Some plastic is broken down by sunlight and wave action into microplastics, tiny particles less than 5 millimeters across. These microplastics are now found everywhere in the ocean, from surface waters to the deepest trenches. Marine animals ingest them. They accumulate in the food chain. But even accounting for microplastics, the numbers do not add up. There should be more plastic in the ocean than we are finding. One theory is that plastic is being consumed by bacteria and other microorganisms at a rate we do not fully understand. Some bacteria have evolved the ability to break down certain plastics. If this is happening on a large scale, it could explain where some of the missing plastic is going. But this raises new questions. What happens to the plastic once it is broken down by bacteria? Does it release harmful chemicals into the water? Does it enter the food chain in a different form? We do not know. Another theory involves deep ocean currents. Plastic might be accumulating in remote, unexplored regions of the ocean floor where we have not looked. The abyssal plains, the trenches, the deep basins, these areas are largely inaccessible, and we have no way of knowing how much plastic might be resting there. The missing plastic mystery matters because we need to understand the impact of plastic pollution on marine life. If we do not know where the plastic is, we cannot assess the damage it is causing, and the problem is getting worse. Plastic production is increasing. More plastic is entering the ocean every year. We are filling the ocean with a material that does not biodegrade, that persists for hundreds of years, that breaks into smaller and smaller pieces but never truly disappears, and we have no idea where most of it is. That is terrifying. There is another aspect of ocean chemistry that baffles scientists. The ocean plays a critical role in Earth's carbon cycle. The ocean absorbs about 30% of the carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere by human activities. This carbon dioxide dissolves in seawater, where it can be taken up by phytoplankton and other photosynthetic organisms. When these organisms die, they sink, carrying carbon with them to the deep ocean where it can be stored for hundreds or thousands of years. This process, called the biological carbon pump, is essential for regulating Earth's climate. Without it, atmospheric carbon dioxide levels would be much higher than they are now. But here is what scientists do not fully understand. The exact mechanisms of the biological carbon pump are complex and involve countless interactions between organisms, chemistry, and ocean currents. Small changes in ocean temperature, acidity, or nutrient availability can significantly affect how much carbon is absorbed and how efficiently it is transported to the deep ocean. As the climate changes and the ocean warms, scientists are seeing shifts in these processes. Phytoplankton populations are changing, some species are declining while others are expanding, the depth at which organic matter sinks is changing, the efficiency of carbon storage is changing, but predicting how these changes will affect the overall carbon cycle is incredibly difficult. There are too many variables, too many unknowns, and the deep ocean itself remains largely unexplored. We do not know what is happening in the deep ocean ecosystems that play a role in carbon cycling. We do not know how many species are involved or how they interact. We are trying to understand a system that spans the entire ocean, from the surface to the deepest trenches, involving trillions of organisms and processes we can barely observe. One researcher described the deep ocean as the flywheel on the engine of the planet. It dominates organic carbon flux on Earth. The magnitude of it is so great that we fail to appreciate it. But if we start tampering with it, and clearly we are, we could see very big changes in the part of the planet where we live. That is the uncertainty. We know the deep ocean is important. We know it affects climate, weather, and the health of ecosystems we depend on. But we do not know how resilient it is. We do not know how much change it can absorb before critical processes start to fail. We are conducting an experiment on a planetary scale, and we do not fully understand the system we are experimenting with. Let us step back and think about what all these mysteries mean. The ocean is not just a body of water. It is a vast, complex, interconnected system that we are only beginning to understand. Every discovery raises new questions. Every answered mystery reveals 10 more waiting to be solved. The brine pools teach us that life can thrive in conditions we thought were impossible. They show us that extreme toxicity, complete lack of oxygen, and crushing pressure are not necessarily barriers to life. They are challenges that life can overcome, given time and evolutionary pressure. The organisms living at brine pools have found ways to not just tolerate these conditions, but to exploit them, turning poison into fuel and death zones into thriving ecosystems. This completely changes how we think about the limits of life. The unexplained sounds remind us that the ocean is full of activity we cannot see or hear without specialized equipment. For most of human history, we assumed the ocean was silent. Jacques Cousteau called it the silent world. But it is anything but silent. The ocean is noisy, full of biological sounds, geological sounds, sounds we have not yet identified. Every click, whistle, moan, and groan tells a story. Some of these stories we are beginning to understand. Whale songs, dolphin echolocation, the snapping of shrimp claws. But others remain mysterious. The upsweep continues to be recorded. The source remains unidentified. There are sounds in our ocean that we cannot explain and that should humble us. The missing plastic shows us that we are altering the ocean in ways we do not fully comprehend. We know plastic is a problem. We can see it washing up on beaches, floating in garbage patches, choking seabirds and sea turtles. But the full extent of the problem is hidden from us. Most of the plastic is somewhere we cannot see it. Most of the plastic has transformed into something we have not yet identified. And until we find it, until we understand where it is and what form it has taken, we cannot assess the true damage we are causing. The undiscovered species, from giant squid to deep sea sharks to gelatinous organisms that dominate entire ecosystems, tell us that the ocean still holds secrets. Large, significant secrets. Animals weighing hundreds of kilograms living lives we know nothing about. Ecosystems we did not know existed occupying huge volumes of the ocean. This is not just about satisfying curiosity. Understanding these species and ecosystems is critical for managing the ocean sustainably. If we do not know what lives in the ocean, we cannot protect it. And the chemical and biological processes happening in the deep ocean, processes that regulate our climate and sustain ecosystems, remain poorly understood despite decades of research. The biological carbon pump, the deep circulation of ocean currents, the role of deep sea organisms in nutrient cycling, all of these are critical to the functioning of Earth's systems. All of them are influenced by human activities, and all of them are inadequately understood. We are making changes to systems we do not fully comprehend, and that is dangerous. Why does this matter? Because the ocean is not separate from us. It is not some distant alien environment that we can ignore. The ocean produces over half the oxygen we breathe. Phytoplankton, microscopic organisms floating near the surface, carry out photosynthesis on a scale that dwarfs all the forests on land combined. Every second breath you take comes from the ocean. Without phytoplankton, without the ocean's oxygen production, complex life on land would not be possible. The ocean regulates the temperature of the planet. Ocean currents transport heat from the equator to the poles, moderating Earth's climate and making much of the planet habitable. The Gulf Stream alone carries as much heat energy northward as 1 million power plants. Without ocean circulation, Europe would be far colder. Many areas that are currently temperate would be frozen wastelands. The ocean provides food for billions of people. Over 3 billion people rely on the ocean as their primary source of protein. Fisheries employ hundreds of millions of people worldwide. But fish stocks are declining. Many fisheries are on the verge of collapse, and we do not fully understand why. Is it overfishing? Is it climate change? Is it pollution? Is it a combination of all 3+ factors we have not identified? Without understanding the ocean's ecosystems, we cannot manage fisheries sustainably. We cannot predict which stocks will recover and which will collapse. The ocean is the foundation of countless ecosystems, both marine and terrestrial. Seabirds depend on fish. Coastal communities depend on healthy reefs and mangroves for protection against storms. Tourism industries depend on coral reefs and whale watching. Indigenous cultures have relationships with the ocean that go back thousands of years. All of this is at risk if we do not understand and protect the ocean. When we do not understand the ocean, we cannot protect it. We cannot predict how it will respond to the changes we are causing. Ocean acidification, caused by the absorption of carbon dioxide, is already affecting coral reefs and shellfish. But we do not know how severe these effects will become or how quickly they will escalate. Ocean warming is driving species to migrate to cooler waters, but we do not know which species will adapt and which will go extinct. We cannot manage fisheries sustainably if we do not understand the ecosystems those fisheries depend on. We cannot prevent the collapse of coral reefs if we do not understand what is killing them. We cannot stop the acidification of seawater, but we might be able to mitigate it if we understood the chemistry better. We are flying blind, making decisions about how to use and manage the ocean without fully understanding what we are dealing with. And the deep ocean, the part we know the least about, is arguably the most important. It is where carbon is stored. Vast quantities of carbon, sequestered in deep ocean sediments and dissolved in deep water, kept out of the atmosphere for centuries or millennia. If deep ocean circulation changes, if the biological carbon pump weakens, that carbon could be released back into the atmosphere, accelerating climate change in ways we cannot currently predict. It is where the most extreme forms of life exist. Organisms that challenge our understanding of what life requires, what it can tolerate, how far it can adapt. These organisms might hold the key to biotechnology breakthroughs, new medicines, new industrial processes. But we cannot study them if we do not find them. It is where processes we do not yet understand are shaping the planet. Deep ocean currents, driven by differences in temperature and salinity, circulate water around the globe in a process that takes hundreds of years to complete. This thermohaline circulation affects weather patterns, marine ecosystems, and climate stability. We are seeing changes in these currents, but we do not fully understand what is causing them or what the consequences will be. The mysteries we have talked about tonight are not just curiosities. They are gaps in our knowledge, gaps that have real consequences. Every unexplained phenomenon represents something we do not understand about how the ocean works, and until we understand it, we cannot fully appreciate the risks we are taking or the changes we are causing. But there is also something else, something deeper. The ocean reminds us that Earth is not fully known. We live on a planet that still holds mysteries. Despite all our technology, all our scientific advances, all our exploration, there are parts of this world we have never seen. Creatures we have never encountered. Processes we do not comprehend. That is humbling. It puts our place in the universe into perspective. We are not the masters of this planet. We are explorers, learners, trying to understand a world that is far more complex and strange than we ever imagined. The ocean is not just a mystery. It is a reminder that the universe, even the part of it we live on, is full of wonders we have yet to discover, and that is worth preserving, worth protecting, worth studying. Because every mystery we solve, every question we answer, brings us closer to understanding not just the ocean, but life itself, where it came from, how it evolved, what it is capable of. The brine pools might tell us how life could exist on other worlds. The extremophils in the Mariana Trench might guide our search for alien life. The complex ecosystems we're discovering might hold the key to developing new medicines, new technologies, new ways of thinking about biology and chemistry. The ocean is not just water, it is a library of information, a laboratory of evolution, a testament to the resilience and creativity of life, and we have only just begun to read its pages. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the deep. If you found this exploration meaningful, your support really helps. But more than that, I hope you look at the ocean differently now. I hope you think about the mysteries beneath the waves, the creatures we have never seen, the sounds we cannot explain, the processes we do not understand. Because the ocean is not just a place, it is a frontier, and every time we explore it, we find something that changes how we see the world. The ocean is vast, the ocean is deep, the ocean is full of mysteries, and that is something to celebrate. Sleep well tonight, knowing that beneath the waves, in the darkness of the deep, there are wonders waiting to be discovered. Wonders that will challenge everything we think we know. Good night.